and income. So excited to have all of you joining me today. Let's go ahead and start the show. So many of you may not know my story of when I got into the travel business. I've actually been in the travel business for, oh my goodness, it'll be 25 years next year, so a quarter of a century. But maybe like some of you, I didn't start my career in the travel industry. I started in a different industry and spent a couple of years really soul searching and trying to figure out if I wanted to jump ship and take a leap of faith and leave a pretty successful career. And I did. I was an analyst on Wall Street, and I had a lot of things going for me in my career. But what I did not have going for me was a passion for what I did, a sense of fulfillment. And I also felt like I had the golden handcuffs around my wrists, and that most of the day my time was not mine and it was somebody else's. And at the time that I did leave that career, I was at the beginning of my motherhood journey. And, sometimes that can trigger lots of deep thinking and real soul searching. And so that's basically what happened. I did a lot of soul searching when I was on a 6-month maternity leave, and eventually decided I wanted to go to work and really love what I did. I got paid a lot of money. I worked with very stimulating people on Wall Street. There was a lot of upside to it and a lot of security to it and a lot of status with it. But that wasn't enough for happiness, honestly. So at one point, I decided to follow my heart instead of my head when it came to my career choice, and blissfully leapt into the wild unknown of travel entrepreneurship. And this was back in 2001. And for the first 6 years of my journey, I kind of kept my head in the sand. When it came to my numbers, I was very unguided. I sprayed and prayed when it came to marketing. I made all the mistakes in the book, especially when it comes to marketing as a travel advisor. And 5 or 6 years in, year after year after year, I was hiding a shameful secret that I had kind of a come to Jesus moment with my husband at the time that, like I said, 5 or 6 years in, where he said, you know what, if you don't make money this year, we're going to have to find a new job. And it was a very loving nudge, but it was also, reality. It was like time to face reality. And that was the secret that I was hiding, and it felt incredibly shameful to me that I could not figure out how to grow my revenues faster than my expenses. And year after year, I would see progress. I would see growth. My sales would grow. I felt like, yes, I'm moving this ship forward. But every year, my operating expenses would be just as high as the revenues I generated. And so I would, be on that verge of breaking even year after year after year. And that was a very, very frustrating thing. And it was a very shameful thing coming from the background that I came from, where I had been the analyst, actually critiquing the profitability of companies. And here I am not able to have a profit myself. So that triggered me to kind of jump into a whole new, I either had to sink or swim, right? And so I spent the next 3 or 4 years honestly obsessed with monetizing a passion for travel, really trying to figure out, how do I make this work? And not just make a profit like 1 year, but like a sustainable profit. And so it took a while, but I did figure it out and ultimately sold my half of that travel business to start the Global Institute for Travel Entrepreneurs to help other travel advisors also break free from the shameful secret that I thought was a secret and shameful, but I was really just actually, what I'll show you in a second is my results were actually average. It was very, very common and still is very common. So I, after about 10 years of selling travel, I left that behind and I started the Global Institute for Travel Entrepreneurs, also known as GIFT. And that is, the basis on which we built Gifted Travel Network, ultimately sister company. So was my secret so shameful after all? No, but I can tell you from experience that when you don't make a profit, it is very shameful. And so my heart goes out to so many travel advisors that are falling in this average camp, because that doesn't feel good to work as much as I know you work and to provide as much value as you're providing, and to get to the end of the year and just still not see a whole lot of financial upside. So what I have here on the screen is some numbers from Host Agency Reviews. Produces the Hosted Travel Advisor Report every single year, where they go out and they survey thousands of travel advisors on income and sales and other things. And the most recent report is showing that the overall average annual income for a travel advisor is $52,636 a year. Now, these numbers are very respectable numbers, but when you actually, as a business owner, I now know, now that I've been a business owner for many years, that you can't just look at the top revenue number, because this is actual total revenues, not, to my mind, income is net income. So let's look at what happens when you factor in operating expenses. And I'm not talking these expense estimates for how many years experience do not factor in a salary. This is just what it costs to operate a travel business over the course of a year. And these are just estimates, and they're pretty solid estimates, because we have been coaching advisors for over 15 years here, and hosting advisors for 12. So we do have some, understanding of what it costs to run a travel business and operate it before you actually pay yourself. So once you factor in expenses, by the time you can break even somewhere between 3 and 5 years, but even there you're making at most $20,000 a year. And again, for a full-time self-employed operation, $20,000 a year at the upside is just not enough for it to be financially compelling. For someone like me who came from, a Wall Street career making great money, I was happy to sacrifice some of the money that I was making, but I had to be contributing to my household income pretty substantially for me to take that leap. So now that we understand the dilemma that the average travel advisor does actually face every single year, let's take a step into a little bit of our perspective as we have been coaching advisors, thousands of advisors for the last 15 years. We understand where that stuck point happens, and we also understand what needs to happen to get past that stuck point. So let's talk about where that stuck point happens. basically we saw a pattern eventually kind of evolve where there are ultimately 4 sales phases to the travel business, to a travel business. And I want to walk you through those phases right now. So the first phase, the startup phase, is, the beginning phase is phase 1, which would make sense. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the phase 1 stats here. Annual sales when you're in phase 1 are going to be from 0 to 200,000 in sales. That means you're going to generate revenues of somewhere between 0 and 25,000, and it is expected that your expenses will exceed those revenues. So you will not make money. You will probably lose money while you're in phase 1. And when you are in phase 1, the focus is setting up the business, getting clarity on your business model and niche and what you're focusing on, developing your magnetic message and brand, establishing your marketing foundation, and getting that booking experience and training. And we at Gifted Travel Network think it's really important for you to not just be taught. Words don't teach. We want you to get in there and get experience and start selling right away. Phase 2 happens when you are able to sell somewhere between 200,000 and just under 600,000 in a 12-month window. That means you're going to generate revenues somewhere between 20,000 and 65,000, and your expenses will probably keep pace with your revenues in phase 2. So we like to call phase 2 the break-even phase. This is where you might have a little bit of a loss, you might have a little bit of a profit, or you might fall right on that break-even point. Again, this is without paying a salary. And your focus when you're in phase 2 should be on building your list, which is really putting into place the pieces of the sales funnel that are critical for the sales funnel to work. So that is your list building systems, your relationship building systems, and your customer service systems. And also continuing to get that booking practice and access to booking support. You want to have, you don't want to go to school on your best friends and family that will make great clients in the future. You want to bring those and have the support behind you to actually competently do the job by having mentors and people that with the wisdom and connections and knowledge and know-how of how to do it. But you get to do the booking, but you just have someone helping you along the way. Phase 3 is when your annual sales are from 600,000 to just under $1 million. And that means you're going to be generating revenues between 65,000 and 130,000. And this is where the economies of scale finally start to kick in. In other words, this is where we typically see that shift from your revenues now growing faster than your expenses. And when you are in phase 3, your focus should be on, hopefully you have that sales funnel already set up and those customer service systems set up. So your focus now can turn to fine-tuning the sales funnel, fine-tuning your client services, and systematizing them even more, maybe even layering more things in, and then also ways to add leverage to your business model. Another way of saying that, ways to increase the transaction sizes, and specifically that would be maybe working on taking some groups, more groups, adding ICs, and maybe finding some other revenue sources. And probably the most important focus in phase 3 is this final point, delegating and hiring help. And if you don't do that, you will burn out. And we see that all the time, where people who Whether it's someone who was, in our travel MBA program and has moved into this phase 3 now, we will start that conversation with them right away about it's time to hire help. And we always, always, always get the objection that they're not ready, that they don't have the cash flow, and it scares them. They don't want to train. They don't have the time to train someone. All of those objections that we always get. And we still push it because we understand that when you hire ahead of growth, your business will grow a lot faster. And it's happens daily here. All right, so sorry, I'm trying to get my cursor in the right place so I can go on to the next slide. Phase 4 is when you hit $1 million and exceed $1 million. And so phase 4 can go from $1 million to 10 million, 20 million. So sky's the limit in phase 4. And the other thing to understand is that our philosophy is that phases 1, 2, and 3 are temporary phases. They're necessary and they're temporary, and you should go through them. But that ultimately your goal should be phase 4, possibly phase 3. For some people, phase 3 is enough. But your goal should be definitely to get past phase 2, through phase 2, into phase 3 or phase 4. In phase 4, your revenues are going to be in the $120,000 and up range. And this is where you're going to see you should be profitable. You should be able to pay yourself a solid salary, if not even more than solid. And when you are in this phase, your focus now turns to continuing to tweak your marketing systems, continuing to delegate and hire help, more people, more team, and shifting into being that leader of your business instead of the manager and having your fingers in all things. And it is critical, and if you are in phase 4 of your business, that you have access to collaborating with other phase 4 advisors so that you can share resources, share best practices. And this is one thing that we're so proud of at GTN, is that we offer a mastermind environment, or mastermind experience, actually, for the people in our top producers club who are all in phase 4 of their business. And that's one of the reasons why we put a mastermind event in the top producers club benefits, is because it is so critical for the phase 4 travel business owner to have access to that kind of masterminding ability and collaboration. So just to put these 4 phases together on the screen here, I just want you to have a quick look of what that looks like. So, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like I said, they're temporary. And anecdotally, having coached advisors for 15 years, what I feel like, and I've been saying this for probably 10, is that the average travel advisor doesn't make it past phase 2. And now that Host Agency Reviews has this report that they put out every single year, we actually have validation of what I've been saying. So the average travel advisor, according to the most recent HAR report, the average sales was $517,797 in a 12-month period of time, which puts that sales threshold squarely in phase 2. And then their income, their average income, keeps them right there in that phase 2. So that's the problem, right? How does an advisor break through phase 2 and not get stuck there? Because if they're stuck in phase 2, they're not generating a lot of profit. And most of the people that I know that are stuck in that phase 2 want to generate profit. It's not that they don't want to, it's just they don't know how to grow those revenues faster than those expenses and get through to phase 3 or phase 4. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. So if you are stuck in phase 2, by the way, there's nothing to feel bad about, because I think 75 to 80% of all travel advisors are either in phase 1 or phase 2. And only 20 to 25% make it past phase 2. So if you are stuck in phase 2, it's just awareness. There's nothing to feel bad about, and there is a way to get through it and past it, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what I do want to highlight here is a little bit more validation of how we understand how to be far from average, and we want to teach advisors how to be far from average. And so if you look, our alumni from our travel MBA program, our new to the industry program, where we take people who have zero travel experience and we turn them into successful travel advisors. And people who have gone through our program and have at least 3 years experience, their average income is almost double the average income of the HAR advisor data. And not only that, if you take out the people in our pool of alumni that have 3 or more years experience, if you take out of that pool the ones that are still stuck in phase 1, people stay stuck in phase 1 for many reasons. If you're still stuck in phase 1, it's possible that you just haven't had the time to commit to the business. You haven't had the clarity. Well, the people in our program have had the clarity, so it's not that. It's just maybe they had a change of life situation where they had to go back to work, or they had to care for an aging parent. So, but they're still kind of in the business because they want to ultimately come back to the business. But if we take those people out and don't count them and only count the people who have gone through the program and are in phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4 of the business, the average income now is almost, that's not triple, but it's 2.5 times the HAR average. And by the way, 73% of our 3+ years experience alumni have made it to phase 2 or beyond. So we were only not counting 27%. And like I said, that 27%, it's usually because they have some kind of a life situation that causes them to put some kind of a pause on the business. So one more demonstration that we have this philosophy of understanding how to get through this phase 2, through this break-even phase, this plateau, income plateau, and are supporting and equipping our advisors with all of the entrepreneurial nutrition, all of the product training, all of the luxury sales tools to get past that. Are, those alumni from our travel MBA program that actually made it into the top producers club in 2023 for their sales in 2023, their average commission earned was $235,000 versus the average commission earned in the HAR report of $46,000, which is over 5 times the average. And by the way, our advisors all have access to the professional development programs beyond Travel MBA, which is specifically for those that are brand new to the industry. And we offer them through Travel Business University, which is a benefit that every single GTN advisor has access to, is all of the programs in Travel Business University. So what is the far from average formula? The far from average formula is Actually, quite simple. It's only 3 phases. I mean, it's only 3 steps, 3 simple steps. But even though it's simple, it doesn't necessarily mean it is easy. So the first step of the 3 steps in the far from average formula is to map out your numbers and increase your transaction size. Find a way to increase your transaction size and be uber focused on that. And I will say, I was any budget Betty. I spent 6 years not doing that. And this is what happened when I didn't focus on a larger transaction size. I ended up with what any budget Betty has right now. This is more current, so mine probably looked a lot worse because it was many years ago. But today, this is what it would look like. If you're not really overly focused on increasing your transaction size, you're going to end up with an average booking size around 5,000, an average yield of 10%, because you don't get commission on everything necessarily, specifically, especially with like a cruise. On average, you're going to be on a commission share of 80%, and your host will take about 20. If you're with a franchise, that's probably even lower commission share that you'll be on, possibly. And then meaning that your average net revenue per booking is going to be $400. Let's say you are charging a service fee of $100, which is pretty good if you are. That's going to give you a total revenue per booking of, on average, $500. And let's say you have capacity to do 2 bookings a week. So you have capacity to end up doing about 100 bookings a year. That's going to get you to a total annual revenue of $50,000. Now, if I know how much time and effort and focus it takes for 1 booking, let alone 100, your total revenue for working that much and providing that much service is $50,000. And this is why I say travel advisors are underpaid. It is just not enough financial incentive for what you're doing, especially when this $50,000 in total revenue is going to be withered away by your cost to operate your business. So contrast that to Luxury Lucy. And the reason why I put these side by side is because it is so powerful when you see these numbers next to each other. So if you decide, I'm going to lean into luxury, I'm going to sell luxury, and I am going to focus on driving my average transaction size to be $40,000 instead of $5,000. So here we have Luxury Lucy, who made that decision a couple years ago. She's done the branding. She's built her whole sales funnel, her client attraction machine, and now she's got the clients, and now it's happening. So her average booking size is $40,000. Her average yield is 12%, a little bit higher than any budget Betty because luxury partners often pay a higher commission. Her commission share is, she's on 100% because she is selling over $1 million a year. She's in that phase 4, and she was smart enough to do the math and figure out that if she paid a fixed monthly fee in exchange for 100%, she's going to be better off, and she's going to minimize her host agency expense. Her average net revenue per booking is now $4,800 versus $400, and she's charging $400 a booking in a service fee, bringing her total revenue to $5,200 versus any budget Betty's $500. So her total revenue per booking is more than 10 times any budget Betty's, simply because she focused on a larger transaction size client. Because of that, she doesn't have to take nearly as many bookings a year. So she is only taking half of the business that any budget Betty is taking. She's taking 50 a year, which brings her total annual revenue to $260,000. And we want to have an apples to apples comparison. And we took out the host agency expense because it was a commission share with any budget Betty. So let's take out the fixed cost for Luxury Lucy, which is about 10 grand a year to get to that 100% retention. And we still have a 5 times difference, a multiple of 5, not just double, not just triple, not just quadruple. We are talking about a multiple of 5, all because of one thing we changed, the average booking. In fact, if she had done the same number of bookings, it would be doubled that, 10 times, basically. All right. So hopefully you see the power, but I also know what's going on in your head. And what you're saying is, I would love to get $40,000 bookings, Meredith, but I just don't have access to those kind of clients. And I say to you that it's not about the access to clients. Look, that's important, but what is so much more important are a couple of things. Number one, the luxury travel consumption is growing. And it's not just growing a little bit, it's growing by leaps and bounds. Luxury travel consumption has been growing, and it is expected to continue to grow through 2032, almost 3 times the size that it is right now. And that's global. What about domestic? US luxury travel market value is $402 billion and expected to grow to $832 billion, or double in size by 2033, which is only 8 years from now. In 8 years, it's expected to double. And we're talking by $400 billion, grow by $400 billion. And honestly, as I am one of the executive members of a luxury host agency, I can tell you that the competition in the luxury space, especially high net worth and ultra high net worth space, is pretty minimal. Most people who are selling travel don't feel like they have what it takes to sell luxury, and so they actually don't go after luxury, which is ironic because other markets that are comparable, commissionable type careers like real estate, it's the opposite. The luxury real estate is incredibly competitive amongst the real estate community, realtor community. So that is the first thing I want to say, is that I don't want to hear the excuse that you don't have the clientele to focus on and get $40,000 average bookings. Number one, this market is growing and is only going to double or triple in size. Number two, there aren't that many travel advisors going after luxury. So it's not that it's competitive, it's wide open. Number three, I think there are 2 things that are way more important than your circle of friends and family and colleagues. Number one is the support to sell luxury. If you are with a host agency that is supporting you in selling luxury, that's exactly what you need to move into the luxury market. And that is more important. And by supporting you, what I'm talking about is with a luxury consortia and participating in all of the hotel elite programs, members of those, because those things make a difference. And then the other is your branding. And if you are supported in the branding side and have a brand that can really translate and speak luxury to your prospects, that is more important than your circle of friends. And we have seen many advisors in our community specifically go through our travel MBA program where they don't have that network of super affluent people that they can pull from. but they still grow the business and they still get it and they're still selling luxury and they are getting to that phase 4 in 3 years usually. And they're not only are they succeeding and their business is thriving, they're also living this incredible life and they're so happy because of it. So that's number 1, is map out the numbers and find a way to increase the transaction sizes of your bookings. Now, leaning into luxury is not the only way to do that. That is just the most viable that we see at Gifted Travel Network, and that's what we are encouraging people to do. But that's not the only way to do it. So if you don't want to sell luxury and you want to increase the transaction sizes by chartering massive cruise ships, that's great. That'll work for sure. I'm not here to tell you that luxury is the only way to do this. It's just what we see is to be the most viable way of doing it. And we have built the support for it as well on the partner side. We are members of all of the hotel elite programs. We are in the luxury consortia and can provide all of the support that our luxury sellers need. Okay, number 2, build an effective sales funnel. So this is a focus and a simple concept that as a business owner, you're going to need to be focused on for years and years and years and years. And you will always be tweaking it and always, but I think the understanding the fundamentals of an effective sales funnel is a mystery to most people. And it really comes down to some simple concepts. It starts with a core compelling message that then translates into a brand, a visual brand. And it's our philosophy at Gifted Travel Network that you have your own brand, that you don't buy into somebody else's brand. And the reason why is it helps you make a very powerful mindset shift that really changes the attraction power of your marketing. When you cultivate a core compelling message, the way we recommend, which is to dig deep, identify your brilliance, identify your medicine, identify what it is that is unique about you, that you brought into this world with you and are here to share it with others so that you can make a difference in their lives. What is that? If you have this passion for travel, it's very likely that your brilliance has something to do with how travel can heal other people. And understanding what makes for a great trip, understanding what makes for a great bonding moment, understanding what makes for wonderful surprise, understanding what makes for a connection between husband and wife where, those butterfly moments finally return. That's your brilliance. And when you weave your brilliance into your message and you wrap your message around this brilliance in a way that you are explaining to people how you can help them or people that they know that, need that kind of brilliance, it has this magical shift in your marketing where your sales and your marketing language and tools stop coming from this get place. You stop feeling like this used car salesman and you're not afraid to sell because you're owning your brilliance and you know that you have something really powerful to give to the right person. And then you realize it's your duty to actually put this out there so those that need you can find you. It's your duty to market. And when you feel like it's your duty to market, your marketing shifts from get to give, give, give. And when your marketing makes that shift, it becomes much more magnetic to those who need it. So it's so important to do that step when it comes to building an effective sales funnel. It's so important to root your brand in your brilliance, create this core compelling message out of it, and then translate that visually into a beautiful brand, a luxury brand. And then you can move on to the other more very important steps in building an effective sales funnel. And those two steps are you have to put in place 2 different times of systems. Number 1, you want to be building your list. And number 2, you want to be building a relationship with those people now on your list. Building your list is simply putting things out there, magnets out there, free tastes of things that would appeal to your ideal prospect, so much so that they are willing to hand over their name and email address to get some kind of free information, free taste of what you offer. That's how you build your list. But if you do nothing, if you do that successfully and then you do nothing with them, you're still not going to grow your business. That's why these 2 systems have to work in tandem together. So if you are doing a really good job of building your list, you also have to do a really good job of building know, like, and trust with the people on that list. And the best way to do that is to help them get to know you as a person. Just be a little bit more vulnerable than normal. Not a lot. You don't have to tell them everything, but you want them to relate to you. And so the best way to get people to relate to you is to help them get to know you a little bit better. Share stuff, information about you, your interests, your passions, what you do on the weekend, what your kids are doing, how many kids you have, maybe you're a grandparent. And then in addition to getting them to know you, you want to share really good, helpful information for free. That's how people get to trust you. Sorry, always happens when I'm doing a presentation. I get those coughing fits. So that's really what it comes down to in terms of building an effective sales funnel. You want to have a super solid brand that is based in your brilliance. And the way you do that is by cultivating a core compelling message. And then you want to have 2 different types of systems in place: list building and relationship building. And that starts working like a well-oiled machine when you get that right. So that's step 2. Step 3 in the 3-step far from average formula is you have to scale for growth. You have to scale for growth. And again, this is a massive blind spot I see with travel advisors, is because they're not generating, they're in that plateau of income or revenue. They feel like they don't have the luxury of hiring someone. Do they need help? Absolutely, but they don't feel like they have the cash flow to cover paying for someone else when they can't even pay themselves a salary. But that's not the only way to scale. Really, what it comes down to is the best way to understand the concept of scaling for growth for a travel advisor or for a travel business is to start with breaking down your sales cycle into 4 phases, and then figure out what systems and processes within those phases of the sales cycle you can systematize, you can automate, or delegate. So I'm going to share with you the 4 phases of the sales cycle that I think is going to really help wrap your head around this concept. The first phase of the sales cycle is what we just discussed, the sales funnel. It's the awareness phase, right? It's you're putting yourself out there and you're building awareness of your business and the services that you provide. The second phase of the sales cycle starts when someone reaches out to you for an inquiry and ends when you take deposit on a trip. So that's phase 2. From inquiry to deposit, and phase 2 is your true sales cycle, right? It's where you're building a relationship and rapport with the customer or potential customer. You're giving them quotes, you're doing research, you're gathering information, you're setting more quotes, and ultimately they are going to make a decision. And when they say, yes, I want this, and they pay a deposit, you have now moved into the 3rd phase of the sales cycle. They're now a true customer. And the 3rd phase is from the time you take deposit to the time they return from travel. And this phase is the phase that, as travel advisors, you have the greatest opportunity to outshine the OTAs and online booking engines, because you can prepare your client for travel. You can get them excited for travel. You can fill in the skeleton of the itinerary. You can be a concierge. You can, and a lot of these things you can actually automate or delegate to someone that you've hired to be your customer service, customer experience coordinator. And then phase 4 is from the moment they return from travel to the moment they inquire again, which is really phase 1. So it's that marketing, relationship building, social media awareness phase. So if you're already doing the relationship building in phase 1, you're still doing it in phase 4. So it kind of goes back to phase. The second they reach out for inquiry, now they're back in phase 2 again. So what you do is between those 4 phases, you write down all of the tasks that you have to do to get through that phase. And once you have all of those tasks, you want to identify which ones you really, really love and are of your greatest use, right? That is where you should be focused, because that's your brilliance, that's what you're good at. So circle all of the things that you love to do, and then identify the things that you would love to delegate, identify the things that you can automate, identify the things that you can systematize, right? And just really break it down and go from there. But I'm telling you that we have this conversation with people in phase 3 and phase 4 all the time about hiring and delegating. And I don't know, it's rare, but when someone doesn't object to it, but most of the time we do get an objection, but they always overcome that objection themselves. And when they finally pull that trigger and hire someone, and it's the right person, almost always their business doubles or triples, and they see this massive shoot to the next level. So those are the 3 steps in the Far From Average formula, and how to get through phase 2 and onto phase 3 or 4. That's really what it comes down to, is you have to find a way to increase your transaction sizes and stay focused on larger transaction sizes. You have to build an effective sales funnel. And if you're wanting to sell luxury, part of that effective sales funnel is a brand that oozes luxury. You have to have an elevated, sophisticated, beautiful brand, but you also have to be doing the marketing. And the third is scaling for growth. If you don't scale for growth, you're going to drop the ball at some point, and that's the last thing you want. We do not believe in hard work and hustle here. And so we want you to have a life. We want you to have a business that is thriving, but we also want you to have a life that you love. It's just as important. And the way to get that is by being willing to do the things that feel really hard and scary in the scaling for growth phase. However, given those 3 steps, if you were to just take those and run with them, I believe the odds are still stacked against you, because there are 2 more activators that you really need to equip yourself with to succeed with this formula. Superpowers, activators, whatever. So the 2 superpowers are, number 1, cultivating a success mindset. It's so interesting that, everyone understands that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And what I am sharing with you right now, this content, you are receiving it through your conscious mind. But ironically, when you go to take action, guess who rules the day in taking action? Your subconscious mind. So it doesn't really matter what you feed your conscious mind. You've got to get into the subconscious mind when it comes to getting results that you want, because the only way to get results that you want is to take action. And it's your subconscious mind that is going to control what action you do or don't take. And if you've got, not if, I guarantee you have limiting beliefs, stories, doubts, fears that are all stored in that subconscious, and they're holding you back, and they're shooting yourself in the foot, and you don't even know it. And the antidote to that is, digging deep and being focused on cultivating that success mindset, surrounding yourself with other people that are doing the same thing, and beginning a ritual, accessing your intuition. That is the easiest way to access your intuition is to meditate every single day. That simple. Meditate 30 minutes in the morning every single day. Do that for 30 days. You will be able to, you will unravel access to the most powerful answer giver that you could have, the one who has all the solutions. So that's superpower number 1, is cultivating a success mindset. And surrounding yourself with people who are doing that is really, really important. And that's why superpower number 2 is so important, which is surrounding yourself with really good people. You want to surround yourself with and support yourself, equip yourself with foundational support. By foundational support, I mean in multiple areas. Number 1, coaching. You want business coaching, you want entrepreneurial coaching, you want travel coaching, right? You're not supposed to know everything there is to know about travel. But if you surround yourself with enough people, you will always be able to get the answer. You also want to surround yourself with a collaborative community. People who are of like mind, people who are on a similar trajectory as you. They may be further along, they may not be as far along as you are, but someone on the same trajectory, the same path. Partner relationships. Surround yourself with relationships with partners so that you have clients in a bind. You will be able to help them in a nanosecond. Or you want to sell luxury, partnerships are everything when you want to lean into luxury. Everything. So you need access to these programs, these elevated programs that most advisors don't have access to, so that your luxury client gets treated like the VIP that they actually are. And then obviously technology and service. So those are the 2 activators to the far from average formula. Putting this all together, we have a program. If you want to learn more about Gifted Travel Network, that's what I'm going to talk about in a second. If you are currently happily hosted with Virtuoso or any other Virtuoso Consortia host or any other host, I hope this has helped you, and I mean, hopefully this has given you some clarity and some things to think about and something to focus on. And please share with me your success. But if you want, and if you're newer to the industry and you haven't been able to break past that phase 2, and you are curious about how to take this further and you want to learn about our travel MBA program, then stick with me. So our travel MBA program is, we have the Travel Business University as a whole. That's the umbrella that's our professional development programming at Gifted Travel Network. And for those who are in phase 1 of the travel business, they go into our travel MBA program. If you are past phase 1, you can join Gifted Travel Network as an experienced advisor, and you will go into our Accelerate program, which is just part of the benefits of hosting with Gifted Travel Network. But if you are in that, if you're new to the industry or you haven't been able to exceed $200,000 in sales, then you might want to consider our travel MBA program if you want that trajectory. You want to get to that phase 4. You want to get to $1 million in sales. You want to get to 6-figure in income, and you want to have a business and a life that you love around your passion for travel. That's who it's for. It's a 12-month program. We offer it in a cohort style arrangement, and it begins with a 3-day in-person workshop here at our offices in Mooresville. You get weekly mentor-led Zoom sessions. You get access to loads and loads and loads of learning modules, coaching calls. You actually get complimentary access to Virtuoso Travel Basics program. You get a dedicated Master Your Message session with me, because one of my brilliances is helping others identify their brilliance, and you need to identify your brilliance to cultivate that core compelling message. So everybody gets a 20-minute session with me to get clearer on that. Lots and lots of other parts to the program, but at the end of the day, this program is architected to get you to phase 4 and beyond. And I think I've shown that our numbers show that it's happening. Our travel MBA students are generating at least double the income right now of the average travel advisor. And I think that number is only going to grow as our program matures and gets better and better. The investment in our program for the year is just under $10,000. It's $9,997. We do have a monthly pay option if you don't have the ability to pay that in full. There are monthly payments. Sorry. We do 4 cohorts a year. Now, I know there's a lot of people who think that's a big investment. There is no other training program that's even close to the cost of that. But the reason why that investment is so big is because the reward is so much bigger than if you do it alone and don't get the training and don't get the business education and don't get that clarity of someone who knows exactly where you want to go and knows exactly how to get you there, because we've already gotten hundreds of other people there before you. So think about the investment in this program more as an investment in the lifetime value of the business. And this is a pretty conservative estimate of the lifetime value of a travel business. Let's say you're going to be in the business for 13 years and it takes you 3 years to get to that 6 figures, but by year 4, you're generating $150,000 a year. And then you have 10 more years of that. The total lifetime value of your business is $1.5 million, and $10,000 is less than 1% of that lifetime value of the business. So it's a better way to look at it. All right, so if you would like to be considered for our April cohort, you can go ahead and scan the QR code here. There is an application process. The first step is just to apply, and we will set up an interview, and we will have a wonderful discussion to get to know you better, to get to know your needs. We are not going to push you and force you into a program that is not right for you. So it's much more of a getting to know each other. So I highly, highly recommend, if this is of any interest to you at all, that you just take this next step, which is to scan this QR code here, or it's, oh, sorry, I have it right here, www.talk2gtn.com. Come check us out, and we would love to talk to you, love to tell you more about the program and see if we are a good fit for you. All right, that is all I have for today. I don't think I have any questions in here. Let's see. I think we're good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all joining me today. And I really hope to see some of you in our April cohort. Thank you, everyone.